This is my fifth and final clip explaining the aspects of reflexive pronouns and reflexivity. Words like me, te, se, no, se. Part 1 we talked about me, te, se, no, se can mean to oneself or for oneself, like ellos se hablan, they talk to themselves. Part 2 we talked about me, te, se, no, se can mean to each other or for each other. Las chicas se miran, the girls look at each other. Part 3 we talked about me, te, se, no, se can mean to get or to become. For example, yo me pongo nervioso doesn't mean I put myself nervous, it means I get or I become nervous. Part 4 we talked about making a verb reflexive. Adding me, te, se, no, se can change the meaning of the word. Yo como tacos means I eat tacos. Yo me como tacos doesn't mean I eat myself tacos. It means I gobble up tacos. This last one, part 5, just is kind of a catch-all that shows you sometimes making verbs reflexive doesn't make any sense at all. Sometimes they make verbs reflexive and it doesn't seem to follow any of those rules or fall under any of those categories. So again, don't sweat this. In fairness, I wanted to mention to you that sometimes reflexive doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, examples, Mr. Holt. Let's look at examples. All right, desayunarse, to eat breakfast, is reflexive. But eating lunch is not reflexive, and eating dinner is not reflexive. Well, Mr. Holt, why is eating breakfast reflexive when eating lunch and dinner isn't? I'm not sure. It's a good question. Second, burlarse de is to make fun of, like yo me burlo de Paco, I make fun of Paco, or las chicas se burlan de Maria, the girls make fun of Maria. But here's the problem. When you make fun of somebody, you're not making fun of yourself, you're making fun of somebody else. Now, I thought reflexive means you're doing something to yourself, like I dress myself, we talk to ourselves. But making fun of people is reflexive even though we are making fun of somebody else. That doesn't seem to be reflexive. But the phrase burlarse de, to mock or to make fun of, is reflexive. Number 3. Marcharse is reflexive. Yo me marcho de la tienda. I leave the store. Las chicas se marchan de la escuela. The girls leave the school. But salir is not reflexive. Yo salgo de la escuela. I leave school. So a fair question is, hey, Spanishguyhult, is the act of leaving somewhere reflexive or not? Well, me voy, I leave, is reflexive. Salgo, I leave, is not. Me marcho is reflexive. So some of the time the act of leaving a building is reflexive and some of the times it isn't. Like I say, reflexive can be tricky. Number 4, darse cuenta is to realize, and it's reflexive. Okay? Literally, to give oneself an account. So if I realize something, I'm doing it to myself. But if I see something, that's not reflexive. If I hear something, it's not reflexive. So Spanishguyhult, if hearing isn't reflexive and seeing isn't reflexive, why is realizing reflexive? Good question. Wish I had an answer for you. Number 5, recordar is not reflexive. But acordarse, to remember, is reflexive. So you say, yo recuerdo su nombre, I remember his name. But it's yo me acuerdo de su nombre, I remember his name. So one verb for remembering is reflexive, one verb is not. So Mr. Holt, is the act of remembering reflexive or not? And finally, criarse, to get raised, is reflexive. It would appear that criarse means to raise oneself, but we didn't raise ourselves, we were raised by somebody else. So again, my purpose here is not to imply that reflexive is crazy. In fairness and in the interest of full disclosure, I wanted to mention, normally reflexive means you're doing something to yourself or for yourself. People are doing something to each other or for each other. Normally it means to get or to become, but sometimes reflexive can change the meaning of the word, and here in this clip we've learned sometimes words and phrases are reflexive and it doesn't make any sense. The reason for it doesn't follow the logical lines of logic. So just realize there are some crazy exceptions that you'll come across from time to time. All right, this concludes Reflexive Part 5.